Alright, I am anting at the Cuba Center today, which they've agreed to let me basically set up baits and see what type of ants they have here. This is a former DuPont estate, which is a very interesting thing, because when it was first bought, I believe it was a cornfield. Like all the woodlands and everything here, that grew after, I want to say, something like 50 years or so of this family living there. And it's become like a non-profit sort of native plant garden today, which you can show up and actually walk and cruise the garden. I'm not allowed to do any sort of digging or anything like that, so it's kind of it's like I'm just restricted to baiting, and it is a garden, so I wouldn't actually you'd never want to go to my garden and start just randomly digging things unless you had the absolute permission to do so. But they have some very interesting plants here. It's almost 100% native plants, I've noticed. It's a few like non-native indulgences, but you see there's like the main house up on this hill here, and they have a vast lawn, clean for entertaining people and stuff like that. But then it's surrounded by woodlands with like all sorts of different plants that you don't often see too much, and especially not too much if it's mainstream. I know particularly the things you're looking at there, the I forget what it's called, Indian pink, I believe is the name of that one. That is like a very expensive plant, and they grow it here, in droves. So it'd be interesting to see what I find here today. And here is the general parking area, so I'm going to get started. Alright, a bunch of baits have been set out to half of this place, which is something like 45 acres. So I'm going to start here at the lower path. I'm doing that because the general woodlands, it's surprising because I'm sweating out here just in the full sun. It's extremely hot. If you go in the woods though, it's pretty cold. So alright, I'm going to start collecting samples and recording. So these are Formica subsericea, which seem to be crawling all over their meadow garden. And also, not quite sure what Myrmicinia that is. Kind of surprised they're taking an interest in the cookie crumbs here. Huh. Might be sea fans. I'm not used to seeing Temnothorax move that big or fast. While I'm out here, I noticed the Formica subsericea have discovered half of a moth. They're dragging it home. Stepping just into the woodlands here, underneath the bed of types of rhododendrons and other woody shrubs I'm not too familiar with, we find Aphaenogaster and Nylanderia, which again are having issues not drowning in honey, so I need to find some other solution for that. This might not be Aphaenogaster rudis, this might be Aphaenogaster fulva. Now that's neat. They're using the cookie crumb to soak into the honey. Alright, let me collect a few of these for the vial. There might be multiple colonies here of Aphaenogaster, because I don't see all of these getting along with one another. They seem to aim their stingers at each other now and then. Yeah, it's like that one doesn't really look like she belongs here. They're not really attacking one another, but they're not happy about meeting each other either. Like a bit of a standoff. So once again, I've started a little war. Flicking your stingers at each other. accidentally started another little war of Aphaenogaster. Apparently there are a lot of colonies of these in these woods. Trying to sting one another while others gather the food. So I'm sitting on one of their wooden benches, which, to be honest, it looks like it's going to collapse under my weight just because I believe they grow lichen and moss and things on these on purpose, but it's actually pretty sturdy. I noticed tons of Temnothorax curvipinosus on here. So they probably have a nest somewhere in here. It's really neat that they set up the benches this way. Yeah, that would be their nest entrance right there. Looks like they used a bit of the lichen to turn into like a cavity. Neat. Probably nesting inside the joint here. Some Nylanderia that were smart enough to not get stuck in the honey. Ooh, what are you? What are you? You're kind of tiny. And you're not a Tetramorium. Need to figure out what that is. But they focused on the starchy food here, pecan sandy. So that's neat. And I see a big foraging line here. I'm going to collect a few of these. Also here, what looks like, if it will focus, Temnothorax? Yeah. They're here, but they're not going after the food. Very odd. Aphaenogaster found this one finally, and then ran off. Camera shy. Yeah, so that is Temnothorax curvipinosus, and then, much to my surprise, I never realized Solenopsis molesta was that much smaller. Wow. This is Camponotus chromaiodes. Can't see it all too well, but it actually has a red, mesosoma. And we're too south for Camponotus nivaborkinensis to be. Yeah. So I'm at the end of the pond area here. Already did up on that hillside, that's where I started. And down here, I decided to put one on this general area. See what species nest near the brick pavement they have here, just for that pond. And let's see, what are they? There's a lot of them, whatever they are. Monomorium. Which are also clinging to this plant, whatever it is. Not sure what they're doing, but they seem interested. Maybe I spilled some honey on it or something, but I'm assuming there's a patch of sand under this. Yes, sand. They probably laid it down when they put the bricks in, and the monomorium moved on in. So that's neat. You can actually set up certain situations for ants to come on in. I see a poor Aphaenogaster back here, inching her way closer. Kind of curious if she'll get it. I am at the other side of the lower part of the meadow here, slowly working my way around. These are all summer grasses and a few flowers. They don't actually do anything until summertime hits. But even over here, you see Formica subsericea have come on over. Now, that's a smaller Aphaenogaster than I'm used to seeing, but these are more Formica subsericea. You see they are polymorphic to some degree. The smaller worker here and the larger worker there. And then we have the Temnothorax curvipinosus, gingerly asking the Aphaenogaster if he can have some food, and running off. But I am now at the bottom of the ponds area. I say ponds because there's actually 3 of them. They have waterfalls that cascade into one another. At the top of the lowest one is where that bench was with all the monomorium. And I'm sort of at the lower corner of the meadow garden here, though. There is a woodland separating it. But it's still neat that they are... Formica subsericea is still making nests out here. I think because the meadow garden is surrounded by woodland areas, that they have, the population is kind of eager to stretch out. Colonies keep causing others to shift here and there. It's fun actually getting to do this, and I should say I am doing this with permission, because all the times I come to the Cuba Center, you know, I look around at all the wildflowers and all the native plants and cool things they have, but I only ever see maybe 3 species of ants, so currently I'm up to 11 or 12 right now. So that's exciting. You might not believe it from the lack of activity here, but this is one of the nests to a Formica subsericea here. And you get an idea what they do when they nest in a lawn area. They just kind of pile up all the grass around, or all the dirt around the grass. Oh. Wait, where is he? Yeah, he found an insect of some sort back there. I don't think it's working though, because it's too much contrast. He comes into the light here. And he has a roly-poly in his mandibles. A dead one, anyway. Anyway, inside the gardens, though, they do the same thing. They prefer sort of full sun areas, but because they're pulling up so much soil, you know, this is 3 or 4 inches of soil that they're lifting up here, making a mound, which gets above the typical lawn area in some places, but you know, with all that soil being overturned, the plants don't get as much water to their roots, so it can be an issue. But these colonies, they are just sweeping the forest floor clean here, or the meadow floor mostly. Oh, there's another one with something else here. Found something there. Anyway, this is one of their nests. So this is an Aphaenogaster nest. This is an Aphaenogaster nest. So is this. But this is a Formica species I'm not familiar with. So it's neat seeing all 3 of them nesting next to each other. But, well, that's probably the same colony up here. They're running across a log, or a tree branch, or a root. But anyway, I need to collect some Formica, apparently. Probably at the end of its prime. I believe this wildflower is called green and gold, and I'm seeing little aphids on here, and also little ants. They're either Aphaenogaster or Tetramorium or Nylanderia. It's hard to tell. I'm kind of leaning into a garden, so I can't get my head close enough, but there they are. Might be, I don't know, it's hard to tell. It's weird when you see a species and it acts differently than you're used to. Camponotus chromaiodes, foraging on a leaf that just went under there, and then down here, more Camponotus, so I can't tell if they're chromaiodes or not. It's best if you have a major cast. I'm going to say they are chromaiodes, just because I see some red hue in the mesosoma in some of these. Now in the woodlands at the top of the meadow, and I see I started another war. 2 colonies of Aphaenogaster going at it, and a lone Camponotus pennsylvanicus worker on a stick for safety. Kind of fun watching the Aphaenogaster go at it, but I've already collected both of these in abundance. So I've made my way to the top of the meadow now, and I'll be turning around to go down to the bottom, but there are pathways behind me also. But while we're up here, there's a flat spot up top here, and it's got all sorts of wildflowers like penstemon and phlox, different types of phlox, things like that. Also baptisia way in the back there, and I'm told the previous owner, Miss Copeland, who has passed away, and like this, she was a DuPont heir, I believe. She didn't believe that meadows should be full of wildflowers and things like that, or it shouldn't be as floriferous. To her, it was more about grasses, and if you've ever seen a grassy meadow blowing in the wind, just the waves, you know, it's almost like watching the ocean. It's very calming and relaxing, and I completely understand that, but I enjoy the flowers so much more because they bring much more life to it with pollinators and such. Most grasses are actually wind pollinated, so they don't get a whole lot of activity. And actually right here is a hummingbird moth flying around on the penstemon, and ever so closer to us. It's a type of moth that mimics a hummingbird, going as far as to not even land while feeding, the way hummingbirds do, whereas butterflies and moths actually do land on the flower. But anyway, they got around the, they kept the spirit alive. Because this area is flat and you can't really see it from the bottom, you don't really notice all the wildflowers that they have here. And even up here at the top, Formica subsericea, not surprisingly, are here. And I notice wherever they're found, they're almost always the only ant at the food source, and sometimes other ants, like Nylanderia, I'll find them dead, and not on the, not in the honey or anything like that, so they're very aggressive about taking over their food sources. The first Tetramorium, a non-native species, here at the top of the meadow garden, and I expect as I get closer to the main house, you'll see this more and more. There is another colony of that strange Formica I'm not familiar with, which is fine. I usually find a Formica species that I'm not familiar with in every forest in every county. It almost seems like they have a unique species to that area. This probably is one of the more common ones. It's actually the most diverse genus in North America, with about 100 species. Anywhere in the temperate areas that are not desert or arid, you typically find a Formica species in some degree. Many of them are slave-making or otherwise... Ooh, I'm noticing something else here. If I were to focus in here, zoom in a bit. Yeah. Solenopsis molesta, which are thief ants of these much, much bigger Formica species. Try and collect those if I can spot them. Also just noticed behind me, this is a bloodroot plant. And these are probably bloodroot seeds here. Which is interesting to notice. We're not going to do much in this pathway though, so try and give those a good home. So around here I found a Camponotus americanus worker and collected it in a test tube, and then I started this whole thing and I thought I would find them around here, and that is not the case though. So here is a dead Camponotus americanus worker that has been in my pocket for the entire time I've been doing this. I was hoping I'd find more of these, but it was kind of weird that I found one at all. Usually they come out at night. But anyway, you see how the head is darker than, or it's almost black on some of these compared to Castaneus? And I'm sure there are other differences with facial hair and things like that. But this is Camponotus americanus. And I have seen this here before on other plants, but that was like in the fall. They were tending aphids on a swamp sunflower. But if I find any more, I'll be sure to film them while they're alive. I believe these are Lasius neoniger, or at least some of them are. Like some of these are they're slightly bicolored, which you usually find in Lasius neoniger and not Lasius alienus. And we are in the Meadow garden again, so that makes sense. Lasius alienus Lasius neoniger would be here. So let me collect a bunch of these and add them to the vial here. Oh, I've been actually putting ants in vials. Alcohol. So I just went underneath one of these cards that I'm putting out here, and there are tons of Solenopsis molesta on them. This is some type of wasp that looks remarkably like an ant. It's even feeding like one. It definitely has a very large stinger. So I am here on the Woodland path, which is reasonably good, like woodland area. And here underneath the umbrella leaf, we have more Aphaenogaster and something else, like a Nylanderia running around here. A couple other ones. Alright, I took a little shortcut. Woodland path is on the other side of this, and there's a little shortcut that leads out into this more formal looking place where lots of native plants are. And we'll see what we can find. I'm going to go back into the woodland through a path down that way. And beneath an Amsonia bush, and we have Nylanderia with Temnothorax species. Probably Temnothorax curvipinosus, as I find that all over. Though. Yeah. I've been seeing two different types of Nylanderia here. One is really tiny, another one is slightly bigger and always black. or dark in color. I was told to keep an eye out for Nylanderia, I think it's flavus, as they've been assumed to be moving north, or I guess south, or just moving about. I didn't find a whole lot in their woodland area, and certainly not a whole lot new. Actually, nothing new. It seems the forest edge habitat of the meadow and pond area is a good representation of what's here. But I will continue looking. There are more, what I would consider disturbed environments to explore. I believe this is Nylanderia flavus, just because the first gaster segment is a lighter color. I will have to check that later on. Oh, I almost lost it. Assuming I can get it free of the honey. But I will continue to look around here, but I think this is what I'm looking for. And beneath the bench, and once again I've started another war between two Aphaenogaster colonies. No one actually dies during these, it's just posturing and shows of aggression. Anyway, I've already collected these, so I'm going to move on, I think. Back on the woodland path now. I put a bait down here specifically so I could show off this really cool orchid. Southern Lady Slipper, it says. I don't see these too often. It's not a plant that would survive transplanting, so they need to be grown in very, very select conditions. Looks like just Aphaenogaster and something else in the leaf litter here, smaller. Two waste segments. Where are they at? Way underneath the card. More Nylanderia. Alright, we'll look on that. So I'm now entering what they call the Dogwood path, which is just after a crossroads at the end of the woodland path, and it leads to the top of the meadow garden. They have this really cool plant here that I've been tempted to grow, called turkey beard. Yes. I believe it's pollinated by flies though, so I never really committed to it. But I put one here just so I could show that off. And as we're getting to, and of course I see her away, because I'm breathing on them, but there was a Formica subsericea here, so we'll likely see those as we go down there. So once again at the top of the meadow, but now I'm on the other side of it, and down here where plants kind of right before the forest, that is where I started my whole trip. Beyond those trees is the pond garden, and then this is the main meadow proper. But over there is where all the wildflowers and things were at the top of the mound, or at the top of there. So this is another path. I'm going to loop around here and then make my way up to the Trillium garden. So I'm at the top of the meadow garden again, coming around, and this is the first bait that I've actually found. Tetramorium caespiteum. Some people seem to pronounce it cespin, or caespiteum. Dominating an entire card here. I found one other location just up the hill from this. It's weird, they're actually able to keep the Formica subsericea away, so I must be close enough to their nest that they're able to dominate it. This is Carolina bush pea. I have to say I've never been impressed with this plant until I've seen it growing in such a huge patch. Clearly I'm growing it wrong. I'm now in the Trillium garden, and not surprisingly, Aphaenogaster rudis are once again going to war over one another. Some fighting to distract, while others are... Oh, actually, it is. That's the first time I've actually seen aggression like that. For this, usually they don't bite each other. Alright, I'm breaking this up. Alrighty, coming out of their woodland area, we come up onto the trial garden, where they actually test out different cultivars. Things, usually developed by other people. And they can tell you which ones are good, bad, worth growing, worth your money. And I actually set out some baits here because I wanted to know if anything was getting shipped in with their pots or anything like that. So, let's see what they have here. All sorts of neat flowers here. Leather flower, which is a native clematis. Different variety of that. But anyway, I'm going to hop on in here and see what we find. Different types of Amsonia. Some of them with very pretty flowers here. These are like purple toned. I've never seen that before. They do seem to get some type of beetle on them. But you can see some of these are far lower growing than others. Others have thicker leaves than other selections. Is this the same species? Oh, this is a hybrid. Okay. Probably why. Some of them get more attention from bees also. Down in here, we have Tetramorium. Not surprising. There are no trees really in this area. The only shade is being provided by the plants that vary in height. Here. There's otherwise about 4 inches of mulch, probably. Probably started as 4 inches and compacted down. But it's all a brick path, so I would expect to find that here. Bees absolutely love this penstemon. What species is it? Now that would be this darker one here. But that's neat. Anyway, down here I was about to dump this, but then I realized leaf ants running all around here. These are thief ants, but they have got little black abdomens, which I'm not used to seeing. So they're either parasitized by nematodes, or this is not Solenopsis molesta. You collect a bunch of these. The fun thing about this sculpture to a maple leaf is it turns with the wind. It's fun. Coming up from the round garden, or to the round garden, actually came from the pathway over there, but then I started collecting things and I found something neat. For the most part, I haven't been finding anything new or exciting other than the Solenopsis molesta, but this is the round garden. It's a more formal affair with some non-natives in here. Lantana, whatever this purple thing is, whatever those are. It's called Hawaiian volcano flower or something, but also they have milkweed here. Scapius tuberosa. I should probably know the name of that shrub, but I don't. phlox. So I should really know the name of this because it's got bees all over it. That's some type of spider. This would be giant coneflower right here, which will be flowering in little bits. Just say, if I ever moved here, the first thing I'd do is turn that into a hot tub, but anyway, that's just me. Different types of penstemon, different cultivars of penstemon. It's fun statues of a boy wrestling a duck. More penstemon, more things. Seems to be what's blooming around here. We have a Tennessee coneflower here, which some of these coming up are as tall as me. There's a thing I'll get to in a minute. More giant coneflower. I've tried to grow this in my yard before, but it doesn't seem to like my soil. Tennessee coneflower. Gets way bigger. Thought I would relax here a moment. As I'm doing so, though, I noticed down here on the ground that is a male Tetramorium, caespiteum. And it's dead, so they probably flew here in Delaware. Not finding too much else here, so I think I'm going to pack up and leave. But anyway, it's been fun. I've found probably somewhere close to 20 species. I'll have a full list of at least what I think they are. And then I'm going to ship the vials off to Antweb, and one is also going to School of Ants, if that's still a thing. So, alright, thank you for watching, and goodbye.